to the field were already starting on the Michelin slick tyres. Some of the Cup Class category cars had elected to start bravely on the Michelin wets. As soon as we went green, the rain started to come down here, so it was a complicated matter to try and keep up.
To third position. We saw contact between the Lippert and the AF Corsa, but it was the larger contact between Abril and Polcini that ended the Frenchman's race. We had a safety car out, and this amazing restart by Christopher Haase absolutely left.
Riccardo Agostini and Al Faisal, 2 moments. 2 times he went off the track, a nervous moment for the Omani driver. Frederick Schandorf on the outside, that became the inside with just a few moments before the checkered flag would wave. Antoszewski, the poles, which brought out the safety car at the restart. Martin Kodrich found a way by Marco Bononomi to go up into second place, as Michele Beretta, who did have a lead of almost 6 seconds, dived down into pit lane. A great opening stint from the Chilean Ben Yajites, who would ultimately finish in P4. Schandorf reached
the fields, and the battles weren't done. Lettner Racing fancied their 3rd place back from Kessel Racing. A Porsche versus Ferrari. The Porsche won out ultimately. This was all pre-pit stop, and it looks like smooth sailing for the 777. Once into pit lane for driver and tyre changes, that is when things started to kick off, but seemingly undisturbed for the time being. But then rain came, and round the cars folded. This was the main start, and it was Ollie Milroy who took the lead from pole position, fending off from the Lamborghini, and Andy Soucek in the Lettner Racing Porsche. They all made it through La Source okay, and through Eau Rouge, but we had a little incident with one of the GT Cup cars further back in the pack of your screen. You'll see there, that was Arthur Janos being squeezed into the wall and nearly coming back on track. Well, he did, but he managed to control that car, making his way up through in that McLaren JP Motorsport car. But it was the number 63 Lamborghini who fought its way to the top of the timing screen and then pulled away to take the win here in France for the Circuit Paul Ricard Race 2 of the International GT Open. And here was your battle for 2nd and 3rd, right into the final corner, with Al Faisal Al Zubair just missing out. Al Zubair. All went well in the pit stops, and all went well for Christian Klein, who manages to hold on through Eau Rouge just to get ahead of the number 11 Honda. Adam Carroll having a bit of a bother with his seat throwing skills in the pit stop. It didn't affect them though. They still managed to hold on to the lead briefly before losing that, unfortunately, in the Pro-Am back
behind. Alex Fontana got the best getaway though, moving up into 3rd place, and managed to dispatch the Motorsport cars in behind. Unfortunately for Al Faisal Al Zubair, it would be a spin heading through the initial corners. Oregon team certainly had a hard start to their campaign after 2 of their cars. Marzio Moretti coming.
A little squeezed out there, but managed to hold on to 2nd place. This moment for Alessio De Leda, and Antti Vartone went into the back of him, but both cars did manage to survive and keep moving forward. Almanar Racing coming in for their stop, handing over to Al Faisal Al Zubair. Giuseppe Cipriani, despite getting pitched around here at turn 3, did go on to take the AM win. And then we had the safety car out for this moment with Niccolo Marinangeli against the Pellin Racing Ferrari.
In the pit stop window, and held on to take the lead. In the dying stages, it all erupted. Sebastian Boe across the ripple strip, fighting there with the 33 car. Oh, Florian Schulte, Carol Bash into the wall in a strange accident failure.
But change driver alongside Gianluca Girardi now in that car. Then we had another battle in the AM category with Cipriani and the Paparo Motorsport car finding the wall, but no one could match once again their 3rd win of the season. Frederick Schandorf and Michele Beretta.
And skipping over the curves. Plenty of action further back, as we saw a little bit of tussling between some of the Ferraris further down the order, and it was Fabian Schiller who led in the early stages, the recently appointed Mercedes AMG factory driver who pulled the gap. But of course they had their success penalty to take, and that put them further down the order. Al Faisal Al Zubair had to make up some ground. Here he was passing Simon Wright. Coming down into the hairpin. And then, well, when it rains, it pours. Bartone spinning on the exit of turn 10. The car that had led the entire race, spinning out right towards the end. And Alessio Di Lella led it up towards the line. Polcini
versus the 17 was the story of the race. Yannick Medler was trying his best to hold off the rest of the field. Angelo Negro there locking up the tyres, but this was the move that won the race. Vincent Abril diving down the inside, just about getting the car stopped and on the exit, asserting his place in the lead, and he'd go on to take the
rebuild his advantage and build a bigger cushion for Benjahites, who was set to take over the car. Here is the driver change. That was the pit stop as Hites took the car over. That pit stop, though, would be found out to be too long, and too short, I should say, and an additional 5-second penalty was applied. Rima Jafali with a crash.
spins, that one bringing out a further safety car. And on the restart, Sally Ulick absolutely nailed it, but Brendan Ereeb diving down the inside, catching all of us out, Sally included, and he would go through to take the lead of the race. As Louis Brett fought hard with Ulick, he would lose time and positions, and that would...
a couple more times as well. We had a safety car early on for Murat Rojoglu, who ended up in the gravel at Ascari. A scary moment there for the man celebrating his 60th birthday. The driver changes came on and Maximilian Paul took over. And we had another incident here, Giuseppe Cipriani getting pushed into the barriers and ending up in the escape road at the...
Jordan Love, as racing resumed after the final safety car, found himself right in amongst it with the Oregon team cars side by side with Glenn Van Berlo, but Van Berlo was still there on the inside, and with authority Van Berlo held on to second place. No one though could best Leonardo Polcini today. He and Benjahites claim the win and the championship lead.
Of the race, all got through just about safely through turn one, but that would not be the case going into Eau Rouge. Negro picking up a problem, Lieberhardt, Florian Scholz went to dive down the inside, there was contact, and unfortunately that would see further damage to the right rear of Negro's car, as he would then have to come in and retire from the race. Great battles, but this was Nico Vidal taking the lead over Aldo Vistante in the GT Cup Open Europe Class 2 would have a great battle in the opening.
As he outdragged David Fuminelli into the first corner. Fuminelli and Batra side by side for second in the early stages. Giardoni and Van Berlo's car, with Giardoni taking the start there, getting in amongst it in the mid-pack in the early stages. The Oregon Lamborghinis picking their way through the pack, and a big moment there for Korsanovski, unfortunately.
race, because it allowed a fair few drivers to lose less time under the safety car because they were already in the pits, and this is what brought the race to a bit of a premature end. Dan Arrow getting into the barriers and up on his side after contact with Marcos Seabear, couldn't clear that car in time, and we ended under the safety car with victory for Riccardo Agostini and Nicola Marinangeli for the first time in the international.
To the right of screen, Louis Brett getting a little bit wrong under braking. He would be forced to run straight on, and Enrique Chavez would go through and help himself to the race lead. It seemed Alan Coder in the second McLaren could take second place, but in the end Brett would hold on. This was one of the best moves we saw in GT Cup Open Europe. Rafael Villanueva down the inside. Daniel Diaz Varela in the white and blue tried to make it hard for him in that Audi, but...
Mini from behind. We then, of course, saw another collection heading down through towards turn one as well. Unfortunately, Marco Polcini, but they're in the Pro-Am title fight, leading the way coming into this weekend. Pietro Pirolini also coming unstuck on that occasion. In they came for the driver change periods as well, and of course we witnessed that of Pierre-Louis Chauvet taking that early lead at the very start. More battling further on as the Elite Racing Audi that was right in the midst of all this.
Losing places as he fell through the order, and then there was a controversial moment here. The big V12 Aston Martin getting in the way of Marcin Jedlinski, and ultimately
place of Maximilian Paul, who really did utilise his first stint. Chauvet would be in battle right from the get-go, of course, coming under pressure from James Wallace, who put out an incredible debut display to take the lead for a brief portion, with Pierre-Louis Chauvet still breathing down his neck. They would make their way down through towards the Lesmo 1, and a pure move of brilliance here from that of Pierre-Louis Chauvet would retake the lead for the Oregon.
Like this, it was a rolling start on board with the Letna Racing Al-Faisal Al-Zubair car a little further down in the pack, but it was all action ahead of the two Mercedes cars leading the field. The Bentley having a little look there as well. Lots of cars having to run wide in that first corner, which meant there was a little bit of a concertina.
Vistante versus Manuel Cerqueda. And we had lots of battling going on for 8th place as well. Jens Lieberhauser going through past Marcelo Hahn eventually. as Patrick Kaprinski also got through. This was the moment he did it up Eau Rouge. There you can see Jens Lieberhauser going past Marcelo Hahn and also going through a little bit of
position indeed, and he was just about in a position to hang on to the title despite some swapping and changing. This moment for Pietro Perellini, making contact with Niccolo Marinangeli, unfortunately took him out of the race. Albert Costa made his way through as well, and despite his best efforts, he was charging through. This move on Marinangeli, we thought would put him in a position to win.
Then all hell broke loose. Riccardo Cazzaniga going straight ahead into the chicane. And Kevin Gilardoni going around a complete 360, the championship leader out into the grass at the end of the first lap. Adamo Sega coming together with Giuseppe Cipriani and Christian Corsa now.
Several cars had to serve handicap penalties. Once the pit stops were done, the KTM came out right behind the 16 McLaren and was pretty quickly able to find its way through, whilst it was the other Teo Martin McLaren that was making all of the progress. The 59 car started down in 9th place, but Enrique Chavez was able to...
Ferrari started 1, 2, 3 on the grid under threatening skies here in Austria. A messy start. Michele Rugolo, who started on the outside of the front row of the grid, pushed into the grass. The Italian's race was over before the end of the first lap, into the gravel, and ultimately had to pit with a puncher.